Learning today, Parshas Noach. We're learning about this amazing biblical prophecy that is coming true in our generation. How cool is this? So the Torah was given, well, the world started 5,783 years ago, right? That's when Adam and Eve were created. The Great Flood happened about 1,400 years later, 1,500 years later. So you're talking about 4,500 years ago, Great Flood. Now, at that time, the Torah tells us in this week's Torah portion that in the 600th year of the life of Noach, don't get stuck in longevity. It's okay. You know what I mean? If God could create the world, he can make people live long as well. It's all right. You know what I mean? If he can make the snake talk, he can make you live. So, yeah. So, and by the way, I want to tell you something, Marty. I want to tell you something. If you, Al, I want to point out, Al Newman is here with us live today, right? Let it be written, let it be known for posterity that Al Newman is here with us live and well. So concerned with Phyllis too. So I just want you to know, imagine you went, we talk about people living 600 years, 900 years, like they fell off the planet. Imagine if you went to Noach's generation and you told them, you went to Adam and Eve and you said to them, yeah, I'm speaking to my brother in Australia now. He'd look at you like you're fantasizing, right? Okay, but in theory, if you went to somebody 1,000 years ago, if you went to somebody 100 years ago, you know what? You went to somebody 50 years ago. No, you went to somebody 10 years ago and you told them, I'm looking at my grandson in Australia now, right? They'd say you're smoking something, right? One thing we've learned from modern technology is expect the unexpected, okay? And if human beings are capable of creating technology and systems, then Hashem, who created the human beings, can certainly do so. So don't get stuck in your little box. That's what I'm saying, okay? Don't get stuck in your little box. People say to me, I don't understand why God would have made the Holocaust. Therefore, there can be no God. Phyllis Newman, alive and well, in person. Amazing to have you here. I just want to note it. I want to record it, Phyllis, that you are here live on the computer. And I see we got David Weinberg, Fran Marks from North Florida, Dan Geiker, good morning, and Corina, Refuah Shlema. So, folks, I just want to point this out to you. People say, I don't understand how God could have made the Holocaust, therefore there is no God, right? That would be the equivalent of saying, I don't understand why Donald Trump did A, B, C, therefore there is no Donald Trump. I don't understand why Barack Obama would have signed the Iran deal, whatever. Therefore, there is no Iran deal. Just because things don't make sense to me doesn't mean they don't exist, okay? Unless you're a super narcissist, right? If something doesn't make sense to you, it means you don't get it. It's okay. It could exist even outside of your little tiny world, right? So anyway, let's not get stuck in the age of Noach. But the Torah says that it was in the 600th year of Noach's life that the well springs from below and the windows from above opened up and they flooded the world with water. That flood, by the way, began in this month. The 17th day of this month. Today is the second day of the month of Cheshvan. But on the 17th day of the month of Cheshvan is when the rains began, lasted for an entire year. And the rain, it rains for 40 days and 40 nights. You know how long it takes to drain that thing? It was a hurricane 3 weeks ago, but I think they're still, I think they're still draining it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, when you have that kind of water, until they got out of the ark, it took them a year, all right? So anyways, where am I going with this? It says like this. Do I have the wrong book with me today? I think I might have. Hold on, just bear with me a moment. Folks, don't go away. I'm going to bring my other book.
That's right. He's got his.
All right.
Footnotes.
All right, Hineni. We are learning a talk from the Rebbe, by the way. Let it be known. Good morning, Ed Hockman. We're learning a talk from the Rebbe over here, which I'm paraphrasing. Okay, so here's what happened. So the Zohar tells us, the Zohar, which is the book of Kabbalah, tells us that, as commentary on this verse, the Zohar tells us that this is not just a verse. This is what's so exciting about Chassidus, about Chabad philosophy. Chabad philosophy, again, it's not a denomination of Judaism. Yeah, I'm Chabad, I'm Reconstruction. It's not what a Chabad is. Chabad is a relentless intellectual attack on faith. It's understanding what you believe. Chabad is a philosophy. So Chabad opens our eyes. The book of the Zohar opens our eyes by saying the following. It says, now this Zohar was written by God, given to Moses on Mount Sinai, and passed on in teacher to student as a secret for thousands of years until it was written down in the book of the Zohar in very cryptic form, which is still very difficult to understand, but Chabad teaches the teachings of the Zohar. So here's what it says in the Zohar. We said this yesterday, just a quick recap. That in the 600th year of the 6th millennium, the well springs of wisdom from above and the well springs of wisdom from below will open up in anticipation of a new world. Just like the world of Noach was cleansed through the mikvah, which was the great flood, like a mikvah that purifies and ritually cleanses the world that was corrupt, so too in the 600th year of the 6th millennium, everything's going to change. The well springs of wisdom from above and below will flood the earth with wisdom to the point that the world will be ready for a new beginning, a new birth, the coming of the Mashiach. What is the 600th year of the 6th millennium? We calculated it yesterday. It was the year 1840, the year of the Industrial Revolution. Amazing how technology, the wisdom from below, is talking about scientific wisdom, flourished in 1840. That was when the world changed, when we began the revolution, which is today Apple, Facebook, Google, Meta, Instagram, WhatsApp, everything else that's going on. What? YouTube, everything that's going on over here. Exactly. I mean, literally YouTube right now. I have, I mean, people tell me, someone just said to me, that you watch this at nighttime, right? Or somebody said you watch it at nighttime, right? Where you literally are able to be anywhere on earth at any time and study any wisdom. It's incredible. The world is flooded with wisdom. Think about it, right? And this is secular wisdom, which is YouTube and, technology, medicine, science, research, all of that is, has flooded the earth. It began in 1840 when everything started to change. The world changed in the past 180 years more than it did in the previous 1800 years. And in the past 18 years, that revolution has snowballed to the point that we've developed more in the past 18 years than we've done in the past 180 years. And if you think about it, we probably changed in the past 18 months more than we've evolved in the past 18 years, because it's the, I forget the word for this, but it's an effect.
Asymptotic curve.
Asymptotic curve. There's another term I was thinking of, but yes, the more you progress, the faster the curve of progress. Exponential growth. Yeah, it's the snowball effect. So if you think about it, where the world is going to be in 5 years or 1 year is incredibly exciting. It's incredibly exciting. I mean,
isn't the question, are we getting smarter?
Yeah.
It's like,
Smart.
there's a good argument that I think some of us
Dumbing
might have
down.
it dumbed down.
Yeah, dumbing down.
Some of us.
Harvey, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that there's a class divide between the conscious and the unconscious.
Absolutely.
Those of us that are conscious and those of us that are just blankly staring at our screens all day and all night. I walk down my street with my kids sometimes at night, and I show my kids, see the blue light there and the blue light there and the blue light there and the blue light there. Every one of these houses is just surrendering their intelligence to whatever's on their screen, whatever's being fed into that screen from Hollywood.
The school of thought that around 1840 or so, Darwin, that's when the modern age started.
That's what I'm talking about.
And unfortunately now, people would say we're at a postmodern point of view, where truth is replaced with what you want to believe.
Oh, yeah.
With all the woke silliness and all that sort of thing.
I want to tell you a quick spin on wokeness.
Woke.
I want to tell you my personal view on woke. I think it's a good thing. And I'll tell you why. I mean, without getting political, but I think that we're dealing with a generation today which has been robbed of their need to work hard at anything.
They're what?
They've been deprived of the need to work hard at anything. Coffee, instant. Information, instant.
Right.
Even money is instant. It's, ATM machines, trust fund babies, Zelle. You have to wait for anything. People used to walk. You used to exercise. You want to go to the market, you had to walk there and back. You came back sweating. Today, it's Amazon Prime now. It's Instacart. It's like I don't have to go anywhere. Somebody actually told me on Shabbos that with their snowbirds, they went up to where up north. They said they don't really leave their apartment for anything up north the whole winter. The whole summer. They just stay there because like they have nowhere to go. So they literally stay in the cocoon. So what happens is that I believe that in our generation, we're dealing with a generation that's not fighting for their survival. That's not fighting for their shelter or for their livelihood, and therefore they have the ability to question their values. So the woke movement is a desperate attempt to understand who I really am. We never had the luxury of being able to ask ourselves that question, because what do you mean? If I'm alive tomorrow morning, I'll be happy. Right? If there's no war, or if the war next door doesn't come to my house, I'll be happy, right? But today we live such privileged lives that we actually have the luxury of being able to ask ourselves these questions. Maybe I'm not male. Maybe I'm not female. Maybe I'm not a Democrat or Republican. Maybe I'm not an American. Maybe it's not good to be an American, right? We ask ourselves the questions because people are searching for identity. They're thirsty for meaning. They're thirsty for purpose. They're thirsty for true inspiration. And it's our responsibility as Jews, light unto the nations, to share. Don't blame it on the rabbis, but it's our responsibility to share this with our neighbors and friends in our environment, to be able to be a light unto the nations. Think about it. For thousands of years, we could not be a light unto the nations, because if you try to inspire anybody outside of Judaism, you get killed. Right? And then when we experienced the emancipation and the Enlightenment movement, where Jews were now accepted into culture, into modern culture and society, what happened is that we became so incredibly assimilated. We were unto the nations, where we left behind the light. We were being influenced by them, not to them. It's only today that we have the luxury of being able to not only be unto the nations, but we also have the courage of our own convictions to be that light unto the nations. And I think now the world is desperately telling us, we need you. We want you. We want your wisdom. I'm sorry, Phyllis.
Well, I just feel that wokeness is much more a matter of the collective definition of who we are. I don't think, and for wokeness, Judaism doesn't really easily fit into that, because people are not identifying. They may identify gender, race, ethnicity, whatever it is, but Judaism is not really part of wokeness.
It's interesting you say that. You know, it's interesting you say this, Phyllis. You always have very insightful comments. I just want to comment on that. I have to say something. That, people complain. They tell me that the Jews are the only minority in America that doesn't stand up for themselves. Stand up for themselves. Every other minority, think about it, that gets abused, persecuted, maligned, insulted.
Jewish lives matter yet.
Right. So you'll hear the Black Lives Matter. You'll hear. I'm not into like all this politics so much, but just generally, loosely speaking. And again, I don't want to politicize this too much. But what happens is that other minorities, the Indians, you'll hear about the Indians, but when it comes to the Jews are relatively silent when you have some celebrity coming out who says all Jews should be killed. All Jews control, when some politician comes out and says, actually, we should wipe out the state of Israel, then or maybe we should make a deal with a country that wants to wipe out the state of Israel. And this is coming from the highest offices in America. And you have like Jews that are like encouraging the deal, right? And you feel like what are the Jews doing, right? We're the least religious group in America, right? So what I'm saying is that I believe that Jews, standing up for themselves is not marching in the streets of Washington. Jews standing up for themselves is not putting out full-page ads in the newspaper. I believe that when Jews stand up for themselves, we're not a race. We're not a nationality.
We're people.
We're actually children of God. We're children of God, and that's the only thing that unites us together. Because you have Jews in Australia that dress differently to Jews in Canada. You have Jews in Saudi Arabia. Oh no, not Saudi Arabia, but Jews in Syria that don't even speak the same language as the Jews in Buenos Aires.
Ethiopia.
And Jews in Ethiopia that have foods that would make you throw up in America, and vice versa, right? You ever try to show gefilte fish to a Sephardic Jew? He's like, what is that?
Delicious.
like how could you even eat that? What unites us is not our diet, is not our clothing, is not our language, is not even our common shared suffering, because we come from so many different places. What unites us is nothing other than our Torah. That's it. It's the only thing that unites us. Our Torah, our chosenness by God. Our Torah is our wedding ring to God. And when Jews stand up for themselves, it means that we stand up as Jews. It doesn't mean that we stand up as blacks, or stand up as Hispanics, or stand up as Latinos, maybe is the right term, or we stand up as politicians or as members of Congress. It means that we stand up for ourselves as Jews, as the children of God. The nations of the world know that we are the chosen people, and they're embarrassed by us not recognizing our own chosenness. The nations of the world respect Jews who respect themselves. And the nations of the world have no respect for Jews who don't respect themselves.
The 80 million pro-Israel
Evangelical Christians,
evangelicals,
they respect us more than we respect us.
and they cannot understand why we don't respect ourselves.
Right. So,
That's the comment that
so-
Trump made.
So your
He was
comment about wokeness, I'm smiling because to me, that's the Rebbe positivity bias, that you actually see the good in what for most of us is kind of mashuggy. And I think what bothers us is not so much that individual wokeness. I'm searching for who I am, but their desire or their movement to push that on everyone else.
Yeah.
That's
It's a collective
the
movement.
collective.
were you alive? Yeah, go ahead.
No, but the aspect of what you're saying, when people are saying, "Who am I really? What do I really think?" That's something the Rebbe would say. Yeah, that's,
And the Rebbe actually did
figure
say,
it out.
you were alive in the 60s?
Yeah, I was around in the
Yeah,
60s.
we were
I wasn't.
we were around.
So in the 60s, the where I got this from is flower power.
It's what?
Flower power. Do you remember flower power? You remember
Of course.
summer of '69? So how did you feel about that? I mean, you probably were one of them, I guess, based on your age. But think about it.
No,
Was that a positive movement?
it was nuts. We were all nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was terrific. It was
Oh,
great.
no, absolutely.
It was great.
So you thought it was positive?
I was doing work for the ACLU, volunteer work, and bailing the kids out who had the crap beat out of them by Mayor Daley when they were the flower child at the '68 convention.
Oh,
Yeah, they changed the world.
But they were on
They
drugs.
helped to change the
But they were
world.
smoking weed. They were experiencing sexual promiscuity
Right.
and openness. I mean, not everything about them was
No, but they-
very admirable. But and
they
people
ended the war. They helped end the war.
people your age then were not happy with them, right? And the Rebbe,
Well, some were, some weren't.
okay, but I want to say the Rebbe saw within them a generation that was thirsty for more.
Right.
Thirsty for more. So he saw beyond the superficial
Yes.
drugs and promiscuity, and he saw a generation that was thirsty for meaning, and he inspired the Chabad shluchim to go out and give them what they want, give them what they're looking for, learn with them Tanya, teach them the Yodaita Moskva, learn with them that Havah Yehu Elokim, tell them that there's purpose and meaning to this universe, our existence, that you are important, that God chose you, that you're not a mistake, and that your actions have implication, have consequence, have purpose, and you can direct the future of the existence of the universe.
Was the Chabad advancing the mitzvah mobile?
Absolutely.
Sure,
That
I
was-
remember that.
Absolutely.
that was their-
There was probably a mitzvah mobile at Woodstock. I'm joking.
No, I didn't see that.
Right. Yeah, probably wasn't at Woodstock. But anyways, yeah, so this certainly is an idea, Harvey, like you point out, that I definitely get from the Rebbe, that the woke movement to me, I mean, yeah, they're toppling statues and everything else. It's like I said to your buddy Jack, that Harvey knows what I'm talking about. I said to him, he was concerned about this movement toppling statues of, Jefferson and, rewriting. What next, right?
Roosevelt.
So I said to him, don't get excited. Don't get excited. 100 years from now, they're going to be toppling our statues because we were the Joseph Stalin of chickens. We made a genocide of chickens. Can you imagine? 100 years from now, they'll say that we didn't only kill them, we ate them. We ate the chickens. We're brutal barbarians. When your whole context, your frame of reference is based on human understanding, there's no telling where it's going to go. It could go anywhere. But when you have absolute values,
That's kind of interesting. That is interesting.
when you have absolute values which are rooted in the user's manual, in the manufacturer's guide to the universe, also known as the Torah. That's when you're able to keep on the up and up, right? To stay true to who you are and to your cause, because otherwise you never know what kind of Meshuggah is going to get up there and make a speech and inspire the people to, to some new values, because values change, Anyways, okay. Anyway, so what I'm saying is about the woke movement, yeah.
Is that how we survived when all these others didn't? All these other nations that
Yeah.
gone that were so powerful.
Because they had no spine. They fell into corruption.
Right.
And it was the Orwellian models that they created where the leaders were corrupt. But in Judaism, we've got a very, very strong value system, which we don't veer from. And any Jewish group, by the way, any Jewish group in the history of the world that veered away from Torah values disappeared within 2 generations, 2 or 3 generations. And I challenge you to find a Jewish organization that survived without the Torah of more than 3 generations. In other words, just think about that, right? So any Jewish group in the history of the world that moved away, whatever, you just think about it, just a point to ponder. Any group that went away from Torah, that said we're Jewish, but we're not religious, they just vanished. The only thing they kept us rooted was Torah. Let me just keep going on this idea, because what I'm trying to say here is that we understand very clearly what the well springs from below are.
I know you don't want to go too detailed. Any example of that?
Of what I just said?
Yes, I'd like to.
Some
context.
Okay, I don't want to get too personal. I don't yet, but for example, you have Jewish groups that let's talk about Zionism. The early Zionism, and this is a little political. It's a little touchy right now, but Zionism today is not the same Zionism that was 100 years ago. Look, I don't want to get personal right now, but think about it. Like there were certain the Zionist ideology in the beginning. I mean, Theodor Herzl wanted to replace. He wanted Jews to convert to Christianity. That's what he said. He said, "I want to bring Jews to Christianity on a silver platter." He actually said those words. I'm almost those words on a silver platter. He's like, "Look, that's the end of anti-Semitism. If we just become like them," and then eventually he settled on a. Look, but my point is, today's Zionists are not the same Zionists of 100 years ago. They're those ones, not all of them, but some of them, wanted to create a national Jewish homeland without any religion. And they said so explicitly. They said that the constitution of the land of the country of Israel will replace the code of Jewish law. That was an actual quote by one of the most famous early Zionists, right? Now, I'll tell you who it is. It was David Ben-Gurion who said that. Now, David Ben-Gurion also said, and they had huge questions that they struggled with. I can't imagine what those men and women had to struggle with the founding of the state. Remember the question of, do you accept reparations from Germany? Right. Who was that? Menachem Begin? Right. Jabotinsky? Do you accept reparations from those people whose hands are still dripping with the blood of your mother? Of your sister? Those were tough questions. Ben-Gurion, who said what I just said before, also said, granted exemption from the army for yeshiva students. If you're studying in yeshiva, then you also serve in the country.
About 600 in that time.
Yeah, there was a quota, right? So he, despite what he wrote earlier, he also said a very, very strong commitment to Torah that really allowed the platform of Torah to exist in Israel, right? So, but if you went to if you had to identify a true Zionist ideology, it doesn't exist today. Today it doesn't exist. The true what's called secular Zionism. Because today, and this is a lot of discussion, today those are the guys who want to give away the land of Israel. It's the religious that want to keep the land of Israel. You see what I'm saying? So they've actually gone a full 180 on their own ideology. See? But again, that was very, very personal and the hot topic I shouldn't have spoken about. But if you think about,
I think it's important.
But if you go back in history, I mean, there were groups of Jews that said we're going to convert to Christianity, or we're going to
establish Israel in the Congo, or in Mozambique,
or in Iran.
Madagascar.
So what happened to those groups?
Well, that was during the time, the last few years of Herzl's life, where he struggled to try to find.
By the way, I want to tell you something on that point. My view is on that. I think there's no problem whatsoever to have established Israel in what's called Madagascar or Iceland. In fact, it might have been better if we did it in Iceland. No neighbors, right? I'll tell you why.
No Arabs.
Closer to the herring.
I'll tell you why I say that is because there's two elements. There's two elements to Jews living in Israel. The number one most important non-negotiable element is safety, is life safety. That's the number one element.
Bad neighborhood.
It's a tough neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's a really bad neighborhood. But there's a second element which is much, much less important, and that is that it's a biblical homeland. Right. So the survival of the Jewish people is far more important than to tell me that this is where Joshua or King David lived. So like the Rebbe would talk about not giving away land. We don't give away an inch of land, not because it's our biblical homeland, that too, but because we don't bring our enemies' bullets closer to our children and our wives. Do you see what I'm saying? And that would apply in Madagascar, in Iceland, in Angola, wherever else we might have lived, right? So it's an interesting tangent to go on, right? But if you think of groups like the Essenes, the ones who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? I'm not sure how religious they were. I'm going to do a little more research on them. I think that there's no, that's a bad example. Okay, whatever. Anyways, it's something to think about. Because those guys, I was thinking about a group, but they actually do keep Torah. We have to have it for brain, exactly. Let's just keep on going because I want to focus with you a little bit, a few minutes on the wisdom of above and the wisdom from below. The wisdom from below is science. We're very comfortable with that. What's the wisdom from above? And that's why I'm going with the woke thing. The wisdom from above is Kabbalah, is mysticism, is Torah. We today have more knowledge of why of Torah than any generation in the history of Judaism. They, in previous generations, if you asked why in Hebrew school, in Cheder, the teacher would give you a frask, a pachin pani. You bring a paskunyak, a chutzpanyak. You bring a chutzpanyak. What do you mean, why? That's how we do it. Right? Today, everybody asks why. It's a good thing to ask why.
The older generation was because. This generation is why.
That's right. And there's a reason for that. Because the well springs from above have opened up. Today we have access to wisdom. In other words, a rabbi gets up and gives a sermon. What is he going to talk about in his sermon? He's got an option. He can either say, okay, guys, this is how we do it. We get up in the morning, we do A, B, C, D, E. Let's go to Kiddush. Right? Or he can get up in the sermon and say, why do we do it this way? What's the relevance of this? How does this mean something to me in my life? And that's what we're holding right now. We're holding with the flooding of the well springs from above, which is preparing the world for the coming of the Mashiach. What is Mashiach? Mashiach is divine consciousness. Mashiach is the ability to see the doctrine of perpetual creation at play at all times. What does that mean? Hashem is creating the universe at every single moment in time. But we don't see it. We only see a table, a chair, a flower, a tree, a politician. But imagine if you saw the squad, right? And we look at the squad, instead of seeing the ugly exterior of hate, you saw the interior. You saw, wow, this is a divine dispatch mission. God is creating them right now.
Why?
Well, the squad might be viewed as a wake-up call.
Perhaps, and maybe that's the point. Maybe if not for the squad, we'd still be in slumber. Maybe more Jews are inspired to become Jewish because of them. Maybe they're secret agents. Positivity vibes right there. What are you saying, Phil?
And they're waking us up.
Yeah.
And they are.
Oh, yeah. Phyllis, what were you going to say?
I was just thinking on Wednesday, we sat here with the Rebbe, the Morah Sarah, and it was a group of women and then women and I. That's an enlightenment that we feel very fortunate to experience. Women didn't always have the ability to do that. We ask questions. Sarah's knowledgeable and holy and shares that with all of us. And we feel, I personally have had two incredible experiences one Wednesday and one today. And Sarah shares so much of that with us.
You mean today, right here?
Yes.
Awesome. That's
We were
amazing.
right here on Wednesday.
Yeah, but today also had two incredible experiences. That's great.
You and Sarah, yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yes.
Look, I'll tell you, I think that's exactly what I'm talking about. That in previous generations, you couldn't really ask why. You couldn't really talk about it because nobody really knew. It wasn't, the teachings of Chassidus were concealed from us. And I'm going to tell you why they were concealed from us. I'm going to tell you why. Today, not only is that knowledge out there, it's also available. It's available in every language. It's incredible. It's really amazing. So let me tell you why. The Rebbe explains it like this. He says that that previous generations, I'll give you a quick story. So a guy sitting on an airplane, two grandfathers are sitting on an airplane. One is sitting with his religious grandchildren, and the other one is sitting by himself. So the guy who's by himself notices that the religious grandchildren ask their grandfather, Zay, did you need water? Zay, did you need help going to the bathroom? Zay, are you comfortable? Zay, did you need me to strap you in? Zay, did you need your bag? Yada, 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 right? So he comments to the guy, or to the guy with the kids. He says, I wish my grandchildren would talk to me like that. I wish they would respect me like that. They disdain me. So he says, are your grandchildren religious or not? He says, no, they're not. So he says, well, that's the difference between my grandchildren and your grandchildren. Your grandchildren are secular, right? They learn Darwinian evolution theory. To them, their grandfather is 2 generations closer to the orangutan than them. So you're a monkey, you're an idiot, and they're Steve Jobs. My grandchildren see me, and they see me 2 generations closer to Moses, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. They look at me, they're like, wow, you're a saint. But your grandchildren look at you like you're a monkey. What do you want, right? So with this approach, we look at the previous generations. They didn't need Chassidus. You know why? Because they were holier than us. But we, who are now 3,000 years, 300 years past Moses, 2,000 years since the temple was destroyed, we're so deep into this cave. It's so dark where we are. We need an extra oomph.
There's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of distraction.
A lot of temptation. And that's why we need Chassidus to strengthen us when we're literally at the danger of passing out. We've got almost no oxygen. We're so deep in this cave. But our previous generations, they were closer to the entrance. So for them, they didn't need it. That's one explanation that Rebbe gives. A second explanation that the Rebbe gives as to why Chassidus and what? It's so exciting. I always say we're living in the most exciting times of Jewish history. I can't believe that God chose me to be part of this generation. Can you imagine? We could have been part of the Crusades. We could have been the Jews of York. We could have been the Jews of the Cossacks, the Holocaust. I mean, this is so amazing. I don't know what I did to earn this status of being here. So anyways, a second reason that Rebbe explains is that before Shabbos, you're supposed to taste the delicacies that are being prepared for Shabbos. Shabbos, I don't know how people live without Shabbos. I don't understand this. Honestly, I don't understand. I'm sorry if I sound a little dogmatic or closed-minded. I don't understand how people don't turn off everything Friday night at sundown. Leave me alone. Don't bother me. I'm with my family, my God, and my friends. That's it. Right? Just leave me alone. So for me, we look forward to Shabbos not because it's the weekend, but because we connect with each other. Right? It's a whole mood in the house. Oh, thank God, it's Wednesday already. We're halfway there. Thursday, tomorrow's Shabbos, right? And the kids, they wake up and like, Tati, is today Shabbos? Is today going to be Shabbos? No, tomorrow's going to be Shabbos again. We look forward to Shabbos and the delicacies of Shabbos and the food of Shabbos. You're supposed to actually have a foretaste of Shabbos before Shabbos. You're supposed to walk into the kitchen and have a little taste of soup, a little fish, a little this, a little that, just an appetizer before Shabbos to get you in the groove, right? An appetizer. In much the same way, in the cosmic Shabbos, remember it says in Psalms that one day for God is 1,000 years for a human being. You know you have dog years? I don't know how dog years work. 7 years for one.
Years.
So God years, 1,000 human years is one day for God. Okay? Which means the year 1,000 was end of Sunday. The year 2,000 is end of Monday. The year 5,783 is
Almost Shabbos.
Friday, very late in the afternoon.
Almost Shabbos.
The year 6,000 will be midnight on Friday night. Now, when does Shabbos begin? Does Shabbos begin Friday midnight? No.
2 stars. You see 2 stars?
3 stars.
3 stars.
Well, no. 3 stars is when it
When
ends.
it's over.
Yeah.
When it's over.
Sunset is when it starts. You're talking 6 p.m. is when it really should be starting, 3/4 of the way through the day, right? 5,750, 5750, which was 1990, was 3/4 of the way through Friday, through the cosmic Friday. We're now like well into the 18 minutes, what's called like late. 5,783 is, what is it? 60, 70, 33 years after 1990. So we 33 years past 3/4 of the way through Friday. Now, Shabbos doesn't have much more time before it's going to be sundown, and that's it. We're in the twilight zone right now, right? So what happens now is, you got to get your appetizer before Shabbos. 180 years ago, 100 was 1840, was when it was already well past Friday midday. It was well past Friday midday. Which means it was the 600th year, right? The 500th year would have been 1740. 1740 would have been Friday at noon. The year 1840 was already 1 o'clock. Now it's time to go into the kitchen, get a foretaste of Shabbos. What is the cosmic Shabbos when Mashiach comes? Divine consciousness, divine awareness, right? The foretaste of Shabbos, of the coming of the Mashiach, is learning Chassidus, is learning Tanya, is learning concepts that inspire you about the universe. What's going to be common knowledge when Mashiach comes. Now we're getting a little appetizer. In the words of the Rebbe, he says that we learn Chassidus today. We learn that Havaya is Elokim. We learn that Klippa is superficial, and we know all these concepts that we learn about, and whatever, we learn in Chassidus. When Mashiach will come, what's going to happen is then we'll say, that's what the rabbi was talking about. Now I get it. Because today we're having the foretaste. Today we're having like the technical manual. Like you're reading it before you really understand what it is that you're really talking about. You don't really understand so much what you're talking about, but you're sort of like learning about it. It's inspiring, but you're going to see it. You're going to feel it. You're going to live it. You're going to breathe it when Mashiach comes any minute. So I just want you to realize where we're standing in the cosmic development of time is whatever God commands us to do, he does himself. If he commands us to rest on the Shabbos, he too has to rest on the Shabbos. The cosmic Shabbos starts any moment now. Like literally, we can't go into the year 6,000. It's already going to be Shabbos. We can't go to the year 5,900. We can't go to the year 5,800. We're 5,783. I meant 5,900, right? We're 7 years away from 5,900. We're 17 years away from the year 6,000. No, from the year 5,800. I'm sorry. My math is a little off. I apologize. 5,800 is around the corner. It's 17 years away from us. 5,800 is going to be like 8 p.m. It's too late. It's already Shabbos, guys. This is it. It's happening now. What we're experiencing with the teachings of Chassidus of Chabad, the reason why it's inspiring is because it's a foretaste of the Shabbos. Yeah. And just to close, this is the reason why in today's Torah portion, it says that in the 600th year, the well springs opened up of Noach and the flood. And the Zohar says that in the year 1840, the well springs will open up from above and below because the teachings of the wisdom from above, the teachings of Chassidus, of divine mysticism, of Kabbalah and whatever we learn, is a foretaste to the coming of Mashiach. Go ahead.
In terms of women, will they also receive divine consciousness? Will we be part of a process that allows us to read from the Torah?
Not the same as men. More than men.
It won't be the same.
More than men.
And how? In what sense?
More than men. I'll tell you how. Do you remember before the sin of the tree of knowledge, when the world was initially created, Adam and Eve, right? They were immortal, right? Before they were punished with mortality as a consequence of eating the tree, right? What does Adam say when God asks him, why do you eat from the fruit of the tree? Do you remember what he said?
What does he say? What?
When God asked him why he ate from the fruit of the tree, I told you not to eat it.
He said, she told
She
me.
told me.
me.
It wasn't
He
her.
said, she told me. What kind of excuse is that?
No, it's pathetic.
It's not pathetic at all. I'll tell you why it's not pathetic.
Wasn't pathetic?
I'll tell you why it's not pathetic.
No, it was, okay.
Because Adam,
Blame game.
I'll tell you what Adam was realizing. The woman was dominant over the man. The woman was the dominant gender. And that's what he was saying. He was like, what do you mean? She told me.
The boss.
She's the boss. Like, what do you want from me? So what does God say? He doesn't say bad excuse. He goes to her and he says, well, why did you do it? So in other words, God doesn't say that's a bad excuse. He's like, oh, okay. Okay. She told you. Fine. Okay. So the woman was the dominant gender. What was the curse of Eve?
That she had difficulty childbearing.
And not only difficulty in childbearing and child rearing, but also submissive to her husband, which means that was a curse that was from this moment on. Until then, she was not submissive to her husband. She was dominant over her husband.
There's only 3 hours.
Let's not get technical, but you see what I'm saying? Now, for the past 5,783 years, we've been working on correcting this mistake. When we finish correcting this mistake, which is when the end of the exile happens, we then will return to a state of the Garden of Eden, where we will have once again more immortality, biblical prophecy of the redemption. We will no longer need to struggle to make a living. We will no longer need to struggle with childbearing and child rearing. And what's going to happen to the relationship between man and woman? Not equal. Ashes chayil ateres baila, a woman of valor. I quote the prophet. A woman of valor will be the crown of her husband, which means just like a crown sits above the brain as an elevated status, so to the woman will be higher than her husband. This tremendous mystical depth to what that statement is all about. A woman represents the receptacle, the recipient. A man is the giver. You know, when the universe is created in a way where the female is actually much more powerful than the male, and I'll explain that to you in a moment. Let me give you an example of that. The female is much more powerful than the male. The male is, the word zachar, male in Hebrew, means protrusion or to give, to go out. A female means a cavity or a receptacle or to receive, right? So the giver is male, the female is the receiver. I think even in electrical sockets, they have like a male and a female, right?
Mhm.
So the male, when you plant a seed in the ground, you're the male, or the seed is the male. The seed is like the sperm in the ground. It's like a giving to the earth. But what does the earth give you back? Not a plant, a tree. You gave him one apple seed. He said that the earth is giving you back countless apples. Do you see? The male gives you one seed. The female gives you infinite amount of seeds. You see what I'm saying? That's the nature of the universe. That the recipient, you know, a man gives his wife a sperm. What does the wife give him back? A baby. I mean, how did that even happen? It's incredible. She's so powerful. We're in an unnatural state right now, where the woman is subservient, so to speak, to the man, and that's obviously a very what was it? A little painful. But, what's the word? I don't want to use subservient, but submissive, or let's call it the fairer gender, whatever you want to call it. But when it comes, she is more spiritual. It's all connected. It's all connected. But when Mashiach will come, what happens is that we return back to the natural state of creation, where the female is actually clearly more powerful than the male. You know, you may have heard of this funny medrash that says that in the beginning the sun and the moon were the same, and the moon complained to God, diminished the power of the moon, and added the stars. That's kind of a weird story. Like the moon complained. The sun is the male, is the giver. The moon has no light of its own. It's a recipient. The moon was diminished, represents the power of the female being diminished. But in the future, it's going to be the other way around. So I wouldn't worry about your status in the future. You're going to be in a very good place. And generally speaking, I also believe that the whole feminist movement is a subliminal yearning of mankind to reach this messianic era. Positivity bias. It's the whole women's suffrage, that whole movement, which seems so threatening to men, is actually something which I found incredibly positive. It's progress towards where the world is going, towards the plan of creation. All right, guys, I'll call it there. Let's get comments. A great way to start the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, I'm going to end it over here. Have a great day, everybody. Shalom, and thank you.